Logbook, week 44. And I looked and beheld a pale horse, and his name that sat upon him was Death, and hell followed with him. And power was given unto them over the fourth part of the earth, to kill with the sword, and with hunger, and with death, and with the beasts of the earth. So what do you want me to fucking do about it? This is 52 Pickup. Hello, welcome to 52 Pickup, a podcast about the best comic you've never heard of. My name is Gita, and I'm just Gita. That's just who I am. Always been Gita, always will be Gita. And I'm joined, as always, by professional comic books expert, Alex Jaffe.
That's me, professional comic book Alex Jaffe. Professional comic book expert Alex Jaffe.
No, you're a professional comic book. That's what it is now. Yeah.
I am a living comic, much like Ultra Comics from Grant Morrison's The Multiversity. Whatever you do, don't flip to the end of this book. You ever read that, Gita? You ever read those Multiversity tie-in?
I love those. They were all crazy. And I was just like, let's just let him do this. let's look at like Grant Morrison. Yeah. Why don't you just do this for a while? Just like think of crazy what ifs. That would be so fun for me. And I think for you too.
I know that the original plot of Multiversity, as Morrison intended it, was for each of those weird little spin-offs to be by a different group of people. And eventually some plans fell through and Morrison was just like, fuck it, I'll do them all myself. I really like that Freedom Fighters one that opens with Adolf Hitler taking a dump. I think that was really good.
That's great. That's great stuff. That's just good stuff when you get to tell an artist to draw that.
Yeah.
That's just what we call good stuff. That's like having a good day at work.
Yeah. I'm hoping that more like Adolf Shitler was in the notes over there.
Absolutely. I really do hope so. I'm sure somebody said it at some point. If not either the artist or Morrison, then someone who had their hand on it as it was being passed through the chain. You know, I wouldn't be able to resist if that piece of unfinished, artwork came through and it said it had a picture of Adolf Hitler shitting. I would be saying Adolf Shitler. You wouldn't be able to stop me. Nobody in the world would be able to stop me.
Yeah, who edited that comic? Whoever edited that comic, they didn't leave that note on the pencils there. They're falling down on the line. But I can't say one way or the other. I wasn't in the room, much as I'd like to be. How are you feeling today about comics, Gita?
I'm feeling pretty good. They've never let me down.
No, everything else keeps letting me down, but comics are still here for me. There's a long time when they weren't here for me.
Somehow, improbably, comics are still here for me, right?
Yeah.
That was in question for a while. I think for many a comic fan has felt this way, I think I'll say, is comics really let you down. On our bonus episode, we talked about a big time comics let us down, which is Infinite Crisis. We've talked about it so many times, but in a really specific way. So if you listen to the bonus episode for this month, get ready to hear about yet another betrayal from Dan DiDio.
Yeah. I think that's kind of a big part of what makes 52 so special, that it kind of lifted us up in this moment where we were at our lowest, where Infinite Crisis was such a huge bummer after all these really cool books leading up to it and hyping it up kind of became this event that was just a disaster emotionally for everybody in a way that didn't really feel satisfying. Yeah. And then this book comes along and like, you know what? We can pick up something interesting from the pieces. And that additive way of dealing with comic book continuity is what makes stuff like Marvel and DC really special. Was the Killing Joke incredibly gross in the way it treated Barbara Gordon? Yes, of course. But without that, we wouldn't have had the amazing narrative of Oracle that's been that was just revolutionary for its time and still kind of stands as a beacon of representation in a way that like comics have failed to live up to since.
You fucking nailed it. Yeah, it is a unique art form in that you do get a chance to fix what you perceive as mistakes, right? And this could mean, if you are Jeff Johns, resurrecting Hal Jordan to no one else's claim, But it could also mean carrying on the legacy of the question. Or if you are a comic book writer nowadays and you listen to the show, it could mean undoing Cassie's character assassination for Wonder Girl.
I know that she's currently being held hostage by Tom King in Wonder Woman, but If you want to write her elsewhere, she's around.
Jesus Christ. Just like from the fire pan into the fire. Holy shit. So will someone let Cassie Sandsmark be?
It's never been a good time to be a Wonder Girl, I'll tell you that.
That's true. That is absolutely definitively true. Just let her dye her hair black or something, just let her do something. Just let her do something other than be just eternally pining and sad. I would so love that. Anyway, we are here to talk about a different comic. Last week's issue, we had an absolute whirlwind of a reveal, which I cannot wait. I was reading this issue and just thinking we literally are in the end game now.
Yeah.
like there's very few little plot threads that need to be wrapped up. And one of them does get wrapped up in this issue too, because it's 44 of 52 issues, right? We're almost there. We're almost there.
I can imagine, I can remember being in that 1 week space between last week's issue and this week's issue, not knowing what was coming. Last we left off, our old buddy Sobek took a big old chomp out of our friend Osiris when he convinced him to get rid of his powers. And this just story we've had going on since issue 1 of this series pays off with the death of one of the series' most likable characters, unless you're Keith Giffen. And just imagining what will happen when the other shoe drops and Black Adam finds out what happened was on the forefront of everybody's minds. And it's the only thing this issue lives in. This entire issue takes place in the span of one day, whereas most of these will explore stories over the course of a week. We had to spend this week living in this moment and exploring everything that happens after those jaws close.
They made a meal out of them.
They really did.
Do you want to talk talent?
Let's talk talent. The artist on this issue is Eddie Barrows, who's done journeyman's work on 52 in the past. Something that I have been noticing is that Eddie Barrows is currently one of the main artists on Josh Williamson's excellent ongoing Superman run. And if you've been following his work over the past 20 years, he's really done a lot of leveling up as an artist since this. Like, compare the action scenes in this issue to like this splash page from a recent Superman that I'm going to drop in the recording channel here. And it feels like an artist who has been working on this exact kind of scene for 20 years and figuring out how to do it better.
That is, also don't have the constraints of trying to meet the demands of a weekly series, but this is leagues better just in terms of, it's less workmanlike. I would describe his quality of his work in this issue as, solid, not anything special. Definitely wouldn't be able to pick him out of a lineup. But this other illustration you just showed me from Superman has a lot of character, and the composition is way better and easier to read. You can see how it draws your eye across the page, flowing with the action. It does definitely sound like what you just said. Someone who has been working on being a comic book artist for a decade plus now.
2 decades. Yeah. And it's really interesting to see someone get those chances to grow in comic books, because when you land a job like this, it's usually because you're already at the top of your field. And it's very rare to see someone grow like this, especially in the big two, in the spotlight. And I am not sure what the circumstances are of that. I think maybe it has something to do with the fact that DC has a history of outsourcing to artists in other countries at a cheaper rate. That might have something to do with this. And having to meet a deadline, having to meet a budget for a weekly shipping comic. Who knows? That's all supposition. And from what I've heard in the background about these guys rushing to get inkers to meet their deadlines once Stephen Wacker had to leave in the middle of the book. Who knows? It might be a money thing. But you know what? Barrows was. I can't say that this is a bad issue. It looks fine. It looks like the story. It looks like the storyboards for what should be a better pass at this. But it looks like it's working very heavily off Keith Giffen's thumbnails.
Yeah, it really looks like they just needed someone who could draw. You know, that was the real requirement here is like, can you draw passably and like legibly, because it's an action heavy issue and we need that to shine, but we don't need it to be spectacular. They've got other stuff coming up that they need to be spectacular, and issue is not necessarily that.
J.G. Jones, though, this cover.
This cover is beautiful.
This cover fucks.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
You wrote in your notes that it looks like a Giallo movie poster, and that is true. It looks like it could be a Suspiria movie poster, you know? Just Adrienne's face emerging out of a blood splatter. Gorgeous, minimalist. I like it really. I like it better without any text on it too. Like, it's just gorgeous.
Yeah, they really minimize the trade dress on this one and let the image speak for itself with Isis reflected in this spatter of blood. Unlike the esoteric Dr. Fate cover from a couple issues ago, this is one that clearly they knew what was going to happen in this issue. There was no juggling around with it. They knew that this is what was coming. And when these covers get to hit the definite story beats, that's where they work the most.
Oh, absolutely. This is a memorable issue. Are you ready? Are you ready to get into it?
I guess as ready as I'll ever be. It's painful.
This is such an interesting issue to think about, especially in terms of our original initial criticisms of Adrienne as a character, where she seemed to, let's just put this back in your mind, right? Because this was so many weeks ago before we get really into this issue. Adrienne emerged as a character who used what to both of us felt like reasonings that came from a Western neoliberal type person about why the Middle Eastern countries don't have a right to defend themselves, essentially, and why they should just submit to Western hegemony, essentially. And that was her thing. And Black Adam, in their romance, he was like learning to compromise away from just killing all of his enemies in a grotesque maelstrom of gore, and to be a little bit more peaceful. But let's just remember that is where Adrienne as a character comes from and what her arc has been so far. So let's get into week 44, day 1.
Last we checked in on the Black Marvel family, as they call themselves. They were trying to deal with all these plagues that were affecting Kahndaq, of famine and war and plague and death. And are they coming from the poison of Black Adam's powers? Are they happening because Osiris killed that guy? Who's to say? But they're going around, as far as they know, they've retrieved Osiris to come help them deal with this, but he's gone missing. And as they wonder where he is, Black Adam is struck by the lightning that he loaned Osiris to give him his powers in the first place, and feels his own strength return, which is the signal in the Captain Marvel family, particularly since Jerry Ordway's Power of Shazam series in the 90s, where the idea was that one figure, Captain Marvel, shared his power by splitting it with other people like Mary and Captain Marvel Jr. When you feel that power return to you, it means one of the people you loaned it to gave it up. And that's how Black Adam knows, oh, something happened.
Yeah. Also, as we flip the page for the title, want to note one thing in this really disgusting illustration.
Yeah.
Is that the flag of Kahndaq back there?
That is the flag of Kahndaq.
Have we seen that before?
Yeah, we've seen that a few times before.
It's so metal.
Yeah.
I didn't even notice. It's
the 3 triangles?
Tricolor flag, black bar, white bar, black bar, with 3 triangles intersecting. That looks like a cult flag. That's crazy looking.
Yeah, I think it's meant to symbolize the 3 tombs of Black Adam's original wife and children who he lost. And,
I guess they want to put that in the forefront of our mind because they do also mention his past in the back end of the issue here. They have to do reading this issue, you recognize how much work they had to do leading up to it to get you to remember all of the heartbreaking things about Black Adam so that this issue would hit even harder. Like, they go back to the temple, the place where Billy Batson is sitting in with all the seven deadly, the Rock of Eternity, and remind you of his like story of how long he has lived and his first original family. So then in this issue, he can get rubbed in his face. In the foreground, though, in front of those flags, what do we see? But the like desiccated, disgusting, rotting corpse of Osiris.
This is clearly the page where Eddie Barrows spent the most time on this issue.
That's so true. You can tell. It's like when you see fetish artists doing normal work and the feet are really detailed. That's exactly what it looks like to me, where it's like, no, all these conversations are kind of mid. Let me draw that corpse again.
We got those ribs poking out like Fred Flintstone's drive-in dinner. We got that eye popped out.
That one eye popped out is disgusting. It's disgusting. And it just like compared to everything else in this image, I have to say it looks less like the Middle East and more like the Washington D.C. Mall.
It does with that Washington monument in the back.
It looks like that looks like the Washington monument. Why is it there? I thought this was contact. But like you can tell it doesn't even matter because he knows you're going to be looking at all of the sinew and like all the tendons that you can see, the skin that's like haphazardly falling off. It's so gross. Congratulations to you.
He's got that Jonah Hex face. It's pretty good. And we get our title drop, Deaths in the Family, calling back to the most famous death in comics.
When they killed a child.
When they killed a child on a fan vote.
Yeah, and now they're back killing children once again.
Yeah. We didn't even get to vote on this one. This one's not even our fault. You can't blame us for this one.
Oh, God. So, of course, Adrienne Isis is clearly, obviously, extremely upset by this.
Yeah.
But they don't even really get a chance to mourn because Sobek reveals himself immediately.
I like this scene of Black Adam covering the body with his cape. As the liner notes kind of mention, the Black Adam's cape represents in this series his turn towards heroism, adopting it as he takes a kinder stance towards governing Kahndaq and its place in the world, and him using it as this burial shroud is a clear visual indication that this part of his life is coming to an end.
Yeah. Oh, that's so smart. I didn't even notice, but he does literally take it off to cover Osiris's body, and then it's completely forgotten after that moment. You'll never see it again.
That's it.
Because now we get to see monstrous Sobek explain that he hasn't just eaten his only friend in the world, but that he is not actually Sobek. That he is it's the crime Bible stuff. It's crime Bible stuff. That's what we're getting to.
He's the horseman of famine. Yurd the unknown.
Yurd?
Yurd.
Oh, Yurd.
Yeah. Couple issues ago, when the horsemen rode out from Oolong Island, everyone was like, where's Yurd? And they're like, oh, Yurd already left.
Sorry. That's just, as a New Yorker, that's just really funny to me right now. Yurd?
Yurd.
Ochre. But it's not just him that has arrived in Kahndaq. It's all of the other horsemen that are here, too.
Yeah, Sobek's keeping them busy by doing his whole villain monologue at them, talking about how Osiris stuck in his teeth, and going on about, what does a reptile need love for? My blood is cold. I wrote in my notes, Danny DeVito, penguin-ass bitch.
Yeah, that is so true. Also, not exactly how love or reptiles work. Just so you know, Sobek. Like, the other day I was on the subway and I saw a man with his iguana on his shoulder, and he was giving it little tiny pets, and it was so adorable.
That's
reptiles
who I'm trying to be.
Too. Exactly. God, he made my fucking day.
Me and so Hoomst.
Yeah. But let's talk about the designs of the four horsemen for just 1 second.
Oh, here we go. The Forcemen.
Okay. The Forcemen. God, I was actually thinking that I would just like watch Fantor Stick by myself. Anyway, what some of these designs I would say are sick as hell. Some of them look like a transformer.
Yeah.
Can you tell which ones I am talking about, my friend?
Is the one who literally looks like a guy who Starscream fucks over in like a mini arc of the original of G1. The guy you're talking about, the one with the big
Oh,
cannon
yeah.
coming out of the back of his
They
neck.
couldn't come up with a design for a war that wasn't just a bunch of weapons. And it sucks so bad. It's so stupid looking. He looks like he's made out of Legos. It's just not threatening to me.
I mean, it could be worse. It could be David Thewlis in that Wonder Woman movie.
Fair. That is fair. I hope the house that movie built for him was really beautiful.
Yeah.
David Thewlis is innocent. God, I also don't like Pestilence because he just has he's just carrying around big canisters of illness.
Yeah.
like big gas guns of illness, and he shoots the illnesses at you.
What I'm bummed about is these are the guys that the mad scientists on Oolong Island have spent a year coming up with. This was the best they could do.
Yeah, I know. It just goes to show you, take your medication. It doesn't actually make you a better artist or scientist if you're not taking your meds.
It's clearly that thing where they had a group project and they fucked around on the island the whole time with their free drugs and gynoids. And then at the last minute, they're like, oh shit, we got to make a guy who represents the concept of war. What do we have?
Yeah, they made Death and they were like, let's take a break.
Yeah.
I want to take a break now. Death looks so sick.
Oh,
Death is
rules.
so cool. Big, horrible skull head, goat's legs, like really incredible, like golden glaive. It's sick as fuck. And then all of his friends are so stupid looking.
Yeah, Azraeus, the Silent King. Love this dude.
Yeah.
There's a pretty cool coda to, we'll get to it. We can talk about that in a few weeks from now. But this is not the last we will see of these horsemen. I'll just say that much.
Yeah. They get into a big fight. That's like what a lot of this issue is them getting into a big fight. Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of great fight scenes over the years from Eddie Barrows. Again, this is one they just kind of have to get through, but it does get to be brutal where it needs to be brutal. Like Black Adam just ripping the jaws of Sobek apart so he can never bite anyone again. Fighting the literal concept of war. It's a lot.
Yeah, and then you get to see Pestilence just like vomit again, illness. Like, what does he do? What's his power? He just makes you really fucking sick. He gives you COVID.
He barfs Ebola at you.
God, he's a guy coughing in the subway without a mask on. That's who he is.
Yeah, the Horseman of Pestilence is basically Booger Man from the video game Booger Man.
It's like not threatening. It's not scary to me. Yeah. He's just coughing real big.
Yeah.
I survived that once. But they do figure it out. Eventually, Adrienne is able to use her powers to blow war into the wall. And that takes war out, apparently. Pestilence ends up getting her, though, with his deadly boogers.
His sick ray. And although Black Adam is able to subdue the other horsemen, she succumbs to the illness that makes you have green goops on your face. Yeah. I want to point out this panel. This is I think the third issue in a row where we've just had a great hero punching the villain in the jaw. Right over here, dropping this in the chat, where Black Adam literally uppercuts Death and sends his teeth scattering out.
Yeah, that's pretty fucking sick.
Yeah.
That's pretty sick. Haven't you ever wanted to punch Death? I know I have.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I think that's part of living.
Yeah, I do think so. I think that there's a lot of people right now in Silicon Valley that are trying to invent a device that allows you to punch Death.
Right.
But only Black Adam can do it. So this looks like they are more or less defeated, right? The four horsemen, or they're at least subdued. Death
they're scattered.
Explodes. I mean, what's happening here in this panel? There is an explosion, and Death is in the center of it, and he's screaming out, like that. But they're not dead. We don't see the bodies here. So
they're scattering. Isis has used the very last of her power to turn the tide of the battle as she's succumbing to sickness to send these horsemen away from Black Adam. so they can have a moment together while she dies. And we get this truly baffling sequence.
This crazy ass monologue. Holy shit. Okay, we have to talk about this.
Yeah.
On her deathbed, Isis is like, hey, remember when I told you to do neoliberalism? I was fucking wrong. Kill every single one of these motherfuckers. Do it your way. Peace. And then she dies.
And like, especially now, as we are recording this on July 2nd, 2025, there is a horrifying resonance to this. In like the way we talked about ISIS at the very beginning of this, representing that sort of neoliberal attitude of like at the start of the war on terror, of a very Western idea of peace and what it means to coexist with people, and this sort of so much for the tolerant leftness of her dying in the middle of this fight, where like we have seen here in New York City, where we are both recording from, a moderately leftist person nominated for the Democratic Party. And as our government is literally dismantling every right we have ever had, what is the party that is supposed to represent us most concerned with right now? It's the fact that a brown man might be the mayor.
Multiple people, Democrats even, have said that he has said discriminatory things about Jews. Not true.
Not true.
And then also that he supports global jihad. Not
true.
His mom is Mira Nair. Like, it's not that serious. Come on.
I would say it's very serious in that it's extremely scary right now.
No, I mean, it's just like, it is hard to fathom that blatant Orientalist terror could take hold so obviously and so in such a way where with no masking of it that people would actually take it seriously. But it does seem to be at the place where, because of the many wheels within wheels that turned since the war on terror, now you can just say a Muslim man is a terrorist and people automatically believe it. It's crazy. Like, a Muslim man is a terrorist. His mom was nominated for an Oscar. Like, that's how deeply enmeshed in the Western world that she is, right? Like, you can't, he grew up here, you know? Like, he's from New York. He's been here since he was 7 years old. It would be ridiculous to suggest that he wants to enact Sharia law in New York. And yet I've also seen people say this, right? Like, it's crazy. His mom made Mississippi masala. Are you fucking serious?
I've seen the same people in the same breath say he wants to enact Sharia law and that he treats his wife too much like a human being.
I know. It's crazy. They look at her and she's so beautiful. They're like, oh, she's not covered up. Not much of a Muslim, isn't she? And it's like, what do you want from him?
Who do you think this man is?
God, he's too Muslim and not Muslim enough.
Right.
But yeah, like, reading this, and it just feels like a lot of people who don't have much knowledge of the conflict in the Middle East, trying to put themselves in the perspective of the people who are there, and then also really failing to do so. Where one doesn't answer the question, of course, of why ISIS was like that at all. She'd already experienced incredible, horrible violence against herself because of the war on terror and against her family. She was sold into
slavery. Her brother was sold into slavery.
Yeah, exactly. Sold into slavery, and he lost use of his legs, right?
Yeah.
Permanently disabled because of the war on terror, right? Like, and that wasn't other terrorists doing that to them. That was the Western world taking advantage of the power vacuum. Intergang, exactly. You know, like, it's wild that she didn't already feel this way, and then for her to come to this conclusion only now also feels crazy. And then also, like, she's just like, my name is Isis, and I want you to create ISIS. What?
Oh my God, the clues were all there.
I'm sorry. You know, if you do look at, though, like, why ISIS, the real world ISIS, exists, it is because we went to Iraq and Afghanistan. That's why it happened. You want to know why the Taliban existed? It's because we went to Iraq and Afghanistan. That's why it happened. That's why these things are happening. There's no acknowledgement of the role of the Western world, not the supervillains, but regular soldiers and bureaucrats had in creating these attitudes and the people that want to have vengeance done for them. As she says in her like dying breath, avenge us. And it's just like I get what you're going for, but why'd you have to do it so racistly?
Yeah. I wonder how all of this factors into the fact that we see that the masterminds of this apocalypse thing are Egg Foo, the big Chinese racist supervillain.
I mean, I wish it was thought out enough for it to have a connection, because there's some fertile territory in there where you are using the stereotypes of the Red Scare. And then if you could plan it out correctly, I'm sure you could tell an interesting story, but using those stereotypes about how they are creations of the West to justify war against these nations. They kind of get there in Iron Man 3, which is crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
so
like,
many people hate that Iron Man 3 movie, but I kind of fuck with it.
I fuck with it because there's no way to do the racist Red Scare stereotype without it being racist. So they're just like, oh, no, he's an invention, which is so true. That's just literally true of these stereotypes, right? They were inventions that are justifications for violence against these nations. And acknowledging that is actually way more radical than trying to create a version of these characters that's not racist.
Yeah. And that's where we leave this plot with ISIS begging Black Adam to get tired of being nice and go apeshit.
He's not here to make friends.
Yeah.
This isn't America's next top best friend.
No. It's America's it's the world's next top tyrant.
Yes.
That's what we're getting into here. And we get one scene away from this because this big old fight scene has taken up so much real estate that we don't even have time for a backup this week. We go to Nanda Parbat and we see that the flower that Isis gave Renee, which triggered this whole last pilgrimage up to Nanda Parbat, just instantly dies. It just goes in a single poof in a way that's almost comical. And Montoya immediately puts together what that means. And the people around her, Richard Dragon and Tot Roeder, all three of them, the most important people in Vic Sage's life, they confront Renee and they're like, you got to go deal with this. And
she doesn't want to at all. And I love that about her. Girly, I love that about her, that she's so, even though she has seen what the call is asking of her and seemingly accepted it, she is still so unwilling to come out of this place of comfort. It's like that flower really is the last thing that was holding her to this space. And she now has to be literally kicked out the fucking nest. Like, they're giving her the costume. They're explaining her spare shampoo bottle that has the liquid in it that'll adhere to her face. They put the literal fucking hat on her head and she pulls it down over her eyes as she cries because it's the loss of innocence. It's the end. It's the
literally
end of that part of her life.
That scene in One Piece where Shanks puts the straw hat on Luffy's head.
Yeah,
and he's just crying under it.
Because you don't want to actually accept it, even if you've accepted it. Like, part of acceptance is then taking a step past acceptance into the new life you have accepted. And that is one of the hardest things to do in the whole world. And like 2 weeks ago, she was an alcoholic, you know?
One thing I've been thinking about in this scene is the way that this story is conversational with Alan Moore's Watchmen, particularly the Question and Renee scene. And the character of Rorschach, who is so unbending that he would rather die than compromise his principles. And that's ultimately what he does. But Denny O'Neill's take on the question, and subsequently Greg Rucka's vision for Montoya, is you don't want to change, but you don't get to decide that. The world is going to change you, whether you want to or not. And the only way to keep going is to deal with that and adjust. And that is exactly what Renee is experiencing in this moment. The same way that the Question Vic Sage himself was at the start of that Denny O'Neill series.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
So many comics, especially comics written by the cohort of Morrison or the cohort of Alan Moore, people that came closely in on his heels in the 80s, are perpetually in conversation with Watchmen. Sometimes in ways that we find very irritating, like the stupid Jeff Johns stuff where
Doomsday Clock, yeah.
Doomsday Clock. He just cannot stop responding to Watchmen. It is. I mean, I'm thinking about this right now in the context of, did you see that Neil Druckmann said he was going to step down not from Naughty Dog, but just from the TV show?
From the TV show, The Last of Us.
And it's just, it reminds me of this in that Morrison is more than made, like, actually earned their reputation, right?
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people see something and think, I can fucking do that. And then they literally can't.
Right.
Like, it's really, really, really hard. Here, I feel like this is one of the responses to reactions to conversations with Watchmen that I actually like, because it becomes its own story. It is its own thing. It just reminds you. It doesn't remind you of something better you could be reading in that you were bored and you wish you could be reading that. It reminds you of something better you could be reading in that you think, after I finish this, I really want to read Watchmen again because I want to see where this like lines up with these other characters and how these archetypes have like evolved and changed since then.
I think the secret is that it's not just talking to Watchmen about Watchmen, but talking to Watchmen about the things that Watchmen was itself talking about.
Yes.
It is also engaging in the Steve Ditko stories, engaging in these detective stories, engaging in what it means to change or not change in a character who exists in an ongoing medium that resists change, so you could have a new story every month.
Yeah, that's so true. I think it is probably not super intentional always in this story how it engages with these themes, but you do see someone like I've lamented before, picking up the football that Alan Moore was passing into the future and then actually getting it and running with it instead of just sitting there and standing with it waiting to be tackled. Compared to Doomsday Clock, this more successfully deals with the themes of that superhero story, which is like in an increasingly complex and violent world. What does it mean to be a hero? What does it mean to be a hero when your shit catches up after you? Who watches the Watchmen is a question of this story as much as it is of Watchmen.
Yeah, I have seen a lot of people who like Doomsday Clock say, my least favorite part of Doomsday Clock is the part where the Watchmen are in it. That there are some interesting ideas in the book of like Jeff Johns kind of developing the things he was experimenting with here in 52, but then Dr. Manhattan or whatever is there, like, okay, here we go.
Yeah, it's what also really bothers me about that is the Watchmen TV show, I think, found ways to continue the story that were interesting, or at least it didn't rely on you saying, I remember that guy. But the Doomsday Clock stuff really is just peak. I remember that hours, Here's that guy again. The gum you like is coming back in style. Like, it's very much just, you wanted more Watchmen. Here they are. Here they motherfucking are. Are you happy?
I've been listening to a lot about David Lynch's life recently. And you just reminded me of that with that gum you like thing, and how I think you could make an interesting contrast between how people have treated Watchmen since it came out and David Lynch's Twin Peaks: The Return, where it's kind of very much this work in a context of this will probably be the last mainstream thing I ever get to do that people will pay attention to. So I'm going to use this cultural cache I've built up and these symbols and these characters to just go absolutely wild with it and do everything I ever wanted to do. And it really works as this last statement on Lynch's career. And I think that's the only something you can do if you yourself are the person who worked on the first version of these ideas. Like, when Alan Moore pitched Watchmen back in the early 1980s, there were talks at the time of eventually doing a sequel and a prequel. He even helped put like a role-playing module out. It wasn't supposed to necessarily be a standalone work. There was other stuff he could do, which is kind of why there were some people inside of DC who are like, it's not the most profane thing in the world to iterate on Watchmen. Even Alan Moore at the time said there are other things you could do on it. But the way that he was fucked over in the dealings of Watchmen have just completely changed the attitude around it.
Yeah, I also have heard I was in a comic book store and someone was telling me about like, oh, he knew it was like a for hire story and that they could do whatever they wanted with it. So he shouldn't be too surprised. And it's like, no, I think you can allow yourself to be surprised at the depths of the depravity of corporations.
You can be surprised at the rise of the concept of forever syndication of a comic to make sure it never reverted back to you, which was a thing that did not exist before then.
Yeah, exactly. Like you were allowed to still be hurt by that and also to be so disgusted by by something that you inadvertently helped usher in that you never want to make money off of it. Like that is okay.
The fact that the trade paperback market was basically invented specifically to fuck over Alan Moore feels like a thing I would still be mad about 40 years later.
I would be so mad about that for so long. That's absolutely, I would be allowed to be mad about that too, right? They invented something to make sure I never get the rights to this back. I would be fuck you all day.
They built an empire to house the machine that kicks my ass.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I would move to the woods and become a wizard. That would be the thing I would do. And then, of course, like the insult also to have people constantly trying to adapt or respond or update the thing that you wrote. I would just be so fucking mad every day. I'd wake up and just screaming because you read it and it's like a layered literature in a way that many comic books aren't. Many good comic books aren't as good as this. Many good comic books aren't thinking in pictures in the same way that Watchmen thinks in pictures. Mm-hmm. It is so good that it could have been an indie, right? That's something we said about Absolute Martian Manhunter. That happens very rarely, right? That things are so good that they could have been creator owned. That doesn't really happen at all. And I would be so mad then to hear Dan DiDio say not Dan DiDio, to see who was it that said, one of them just said, this is actually the official DC like solicited sequel to Watchmen. I would be so pissed off if I heard that. I would be saying, fuck you, it's a sequel to Watchmen. I'm going to come to your office and cut off your head. Like, I wouldn't be happy at all with that. I know that Gibbons gave his blessings to the Watchmen TV show, and I think that's a pretty good TV show. I think that's pretty good.
I hear it's good. I bet it's good. I just can't watch it.
Yeah, I tried to think of it as really expensive Watchmen fan fiction, and that is kind of how it feels. And in that, like, some fan fiction is so good that when you are craving just a little taste of the thing you're a fan of, you can just go back and read a fic really quickly, and like that appetite has been satisfied. There's some really funny bits also I find very well acted in there. But it is, compared to Watchmen the comic, it's cotton candy, right? Like it's nothing.
I have heard this theory about fan fiction that I have come to accept in my heart, that the best fan fiction is always about things that are almost good, that are like 80 to 85% of the way there. If only they had changed a few things and made a few better choices, this would have been like a great work of art or literature. And fan fiction is what comes rushing in to fill that gap. And I don't need Watchmen fan fiction because I can just read Watchmen again and get something new out of it, which is what happens every time I read Watchmen.
It's so true. I remember the first time I read Watchmen, I was too young to know that I really did have to read all the long text parts at the end of the chapters. So the next time I went back and I read those, and it blew my fucking mind.
Yeah.
By the way, if you've read Watchmen and you haven't read, if you skipped the Black Freighter and you skipped all the interviews, you're dumb. You have to go back. You have to read those. They give you so much. Yeah. And it's so interesting.
The second to last time I read Watchmen, I came in with the attitude, this time I think I really want to focus on the character of Silk Spectre and meditate on her. And just doing that, I got a lot out of it. And the last time I read Watchmen, I thought, this time I'm really going to focus on the character of Silk Spectre. And I got just as much new out of that time.
Yeah, I remember one of my read-throughs, I was like, I really want to figure out all the subtext with the Minutemen, because there's a lot there that I feel like I don't really get, but I feel like there's a lot there that's unsaid but implied that I really need to get at something out of. And it enhanced the story so much to just skip to those chapters and read and reread them and then flip back to them when they're referenced later. You know, it is a dense text. It is one of the only comics I've recommended to people who literally don't read comics, because it's just like, you'll get something out of this. This has something to say about the state of the world.
The criticism I hear about Watchmen all the time is that it's not a good beginner comic book because it's so much about comics. And to that I say, that's demonstrably untrue. You will get more out of it if you have read a lot of comics and know what it's talking about. But if it's your intro to the concept of graphic novels, you're still going to get a shit ton out of it.
You know, I think that maybe is true. There's certain anime where people say that too, like Madoka Magica is more about the conventions of magical girl anime than it is like its own story. And that's true to an extent. And people also say that about Neon Genesis Evangelion, that it's more about giant mecha anime than about anything else. And that's true to an extent. But the reason why these hit so hard is because that they also were about the human condition. Yes. Madoka Magica is also about, in the way that all magical girl anime is about, girlhood and about what we are trying to teach our young girls to be. And Giant Mech, Neon Genesis Evangelion, in a similar way, is also about youth, boyhood, coming of age, and the way that mecha anime try to show people how to come of age. And this is like taking it seriously. These things wouldn't work if we kind of didn't already know all of these potent themes, and if they weren't already embedded within us, if we hadn't already experienced life and experienced its hardships and are trying to engage with that and understand it. I used to be of the opinion that you should watch at least one Gundam show before you watch Neon Genesis Evangelion, but I don't really think that's necessary anymore. If you've been through puberty, then you probably understand what Shinji's going through.
The only way to not have any of Watchmen resonate from you is if you are literally a time traveler from the 19th century. The fact that you grew up in a world where the concept of superheroes exists is enough for you to understand the basics of what are going on, let alone the human connections and human cost and the ideas of the terrors of the 20th century looming over you.
Yeah, if you grew up in the era of forever wars, secret government wars that happened post-Vietnam, you probably will understand Watchmen. Like, it's about the condition of the world.
And if you don't like superheroes and you don't want superheroes in your medium, From Hell is about the exact same thing, and it's arguably better.
Yeah, it's really fucking good. It's
a harder read, but it's a better read.
Yeah, it is. Man, I think Alan Moore's really good.
He's the best. What's your favorite scene in this issue?
Anyway, what's my favorite scene? God, I just have to say special shout out to the scene where Black Adam breaks Sobek's jaw.
Rip? Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty sick.
Yeah.
Do you know it's so difficult to do that? Like they got incredible jaw strength anyway.
But he's Black Adam. He's the world's mightiest mortal.
That's true. That's true. It's just fucking cool. This fight scene is a bit comic booky, we'll say. Like, nothing too creative going on in the layouts or the illustrations, but it is incredibly satisfying to see that.
Especially with the designs of death, it feels very Image 90s. It feels like it feels like something you would see in a Spawn comic book. But that's exactly what this scene calls for. I think we've accidentally talked myself into really liking that last scene at the end with Renee Montoya the most.
Yeah,
I remember reading
so
Greg Rucka did not like the fact that this issue ended with a tear track going down Renee's face, but he lost that fight and he thought it was too much. I think it's just right. I think it works. You have anything you want to put on the blackboard this week, Gita?
I really do want the design schematics for War and Pestilence.
Yeah.
Like, I want to know the thought process on Oolong Island where, like, let's just make a big guy and he carries a fucking illness guns. Like, what were they thinking? Whose idea was that? Just show your work, everyone. I need to see.
Have I mentioned on the show before the minor supervillain from the 2000s, Carface, before?
No, I would have remembered if you mentioned Carface.
Here's a picture of Carface, a villain who fought both the Outsiders and the Birds of Prey in the 2000s, created by Tony Bedard. One of my all-time favorite mooks.
I love him.
I love him
my
so
God.
much.
Oh my God. He's got a gold chain that says dude on it. This is racist, but in a way where I'm like, we claim that. We claim that actually. White people, you don't get this anymore.
Yes.
We get it.
Carface is at the cookout. He's the grill.
Oh God, I love him. I love him. I love him in his cargo pants. I love him in his Sidewise baseball cap.
Cargo pants for a cargo man.
Oh my God. So this is platinum flats. I ain't impressed. Dog. I want to meet the white person who wrote that line of dialogue so bad.
Tony Bedard, a very pleasant white man.
I'm sure. But tell me about Carface. Like, I have to know everything about Carface. What kind of car is he?
We don't know anything about him other than that he's a knockoff Autobot who fights superhero teams. I'm going to write
the Watchman of Carface. That's what I'm going to
do. That's what we're putting on the blackboard this week.
Yes.
The main thing I'm concerned about is we got to watch this fucking Black Adam movie, don't we?
I know. I've seen part of it twice. Only part of it, though. It was on at a hotel me and David were at, and I always just love to see what's on TV at hotels because we don't have cable, so it's like a novelty for me. Mm-hmm. And we watched about 30 minutes of it before David was like, no, this is actually too stupid for me to watch. And then I was at the gym the other day, and it was also on. Also on at the gym the other day, The Flash, the movie.
The movie The Flash. Ezra Miller's legacy lives on. My original plan.
Be assault. That's their legacy. It's just
my original plan was that we watch this movie literally after this issue where Isis makes her infamous confession. Fortunately, we are at a place where the Superman movie is coming out and that takes precedence. So Superman has literally saved me in real life, at least for a month, from having to watch this movie. But the next bonus episode we have to do, I think, will be about this. The next issue we cover will literally have the J.G. Jones cover of Black Adam lounging in that throne around a bunch of bodies. That was in all the publicity for the movie.
Everybody loves it. We also should take some time at some point to talk about the 52 tie-ins, one of which is World War III, which I think is about this.
We will. World War III takes place between issues 50 and 51. And we're going to have a special. We're so close. We're going to have a special talking about how they put this awful event in the middle of one of the best events DC ever did. Kind of an inverse Final Crisis in that way. Final Crisis, incomprehensible. The shit inside of it, pretty good.
Yeah, man. I mean, just looking at pages from Final Crisis and you just feel like, hell yeah. Any drawing of Darkseid that shows up in Final Crisis, you're just like, fuck.
Yeah.
What is it Final Crisis about? I don't know.
Yeah. What's a miracle
simply
machine?
Don't know.
Superman
However,
whistles at some point and saves the universe somehow.
It's awesome. It's awesome. Yeah. What's happening in it? I couldn't tell you. Just look at the pretty pictures. It's all right. It's a vibe. It's a vibe.
We got a couple questions this week. One is from Rin, who asks, what's it like wearing the question mask? What kind of material is it? Is it clammy? We have a canonical answer to this, but I want to get your thoughts first, Gita. What do you think that question mask is like?
It's like being on a raincoat in a hot day, right? Like that's what you kind of feel like you're in a plastic bag. That's what it's got to be like.
Canonically, and that's how I like to pronounce that word, canonically, the mask is made of this material called pseudoderm that Todd Roeder created to be like a medical, like fake spray on skin to heal wounds and such. Like you could use a gas to apply this and it would cover a bruise or like be a portable skin graft. And that is the material that is used to kind of bake the mask around the question's face. And the first time he wears it in that Dennis O'Neil series, and Vic asks him what it feels like, how it fits, and he says, like a tattoo. And that's how I've always thought about it. Like, you don't even know it's there.
Huh. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Fascinating. I mean, that's way more comfortable than what I was assuming.
Right. I think the main discomfort with the mask is a soul discomfort, an interior discomfort of erasing yourself. And
it's existential discomfort.
Yeah, it's an existential discomfort. Our next question comes from Cole, who asks, a friend and I were discussing which comics characters wouldn't be fazed by finding out they were in a work of fiction. And I brought up Vic Sage. Are there iterations of the question that you think would take knowledge of being a fictional character in stride?
No, Renee would freak the fuck out.
Renee would freak the fuck out. The question would pretend that he knew that this was what was going on all along, but not that, like, there's no way.
He would say, I knew it. And you'd be like, how? And he'd be like, I don't know.
Of course. He would say obvious in hindsight. Something like that. Who are there characters who know that they are fictional characters that aren't annoying?
Superman suspects, but that gives him all the more reason to act heroically because he wants to inspire who's ever reading it.
That's an interesting take. I mean, he does a lot of winking at the camera when he's teasing Lois Lane.
He doesn't really want to know the answer, but he's like, I just want to inspire people, so I'm just going to do the best I can. I like that idea.
That's a neat interpretation. I'm a little uncomfortable with it, but I can come around to it. Well,
he's Jesus. He's Jesus Christ, so he knows. He does know. Let's see. Who else knows? If you told Bruce Wayne he'd kill you, that would be something he'd do.
I think the whole thing of the Joker is that he's playing a character from Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah, absolutely. No, the Joker knows. And that's why he thinks everything's just so funny. Harley also knows. That's part of her psychotic break, is being able to see the edges of the panels. Zatanna knows, canonically, from Seven Soldiers of Victory.
Yeah, that comes up again in the recent Zatanna series by Jamal Campbell, where she's literally running across a page of the comic and looks up at you reading it and be like, thanks for buying the issue. I hope you enjoy it.
That's so cute. Thank you. Thanks, Zatanna.
Yeah, thanks, Zatanna.
I would love for her to have a good book. Is that ongoing all right?
It's not ongoing. It's a mini.
Oh, it's a mini? Okay, fine. Yeah. Well, as long as she gets to show up and have some quality hijinks, I'm happy for her.
She has a good time in it. It's very much a spiritual sequel to the Paul Dini series from 2010, which
I see.
So many people love.
Yeah.
But less fetishy.
Oh, okay. Well, I was waiting for that shoe to drop. So thank you for letting me know.
Not as much about being horny and more the things people actually liked about that book.
Yeah,
which is just Zatanna having a good time and being magic. I think that's about it for this week. I'm looking through my notes. I don't think there's anything else on the agenda. I guess I'll see you next week for issue number 45. Thank you so much for recording. To you listening, thank you for listening to this. I hope you enjoyed this episode of 52 Pickup. We're going to keep on doing it. Wait, or right until the end. We'll see what surprises await us along the way. Future TBD. For 52 Pickup, I'm Alex Jaffe.
I just wanted to make sure you grab that one last thing that there's on the agenda. If you look down at the bottom of the notes, there's something that you're supposed to read out. I just want to make sure that you saw that.
No, okay, we did. Let's talk talent. We talked about the cover. We did the Shiruda stuff. We did the Nanda Parbat stuff. We went on like a half-hour tangent about Watchmen. That was very important.
That was really important.
We did the favorite scenes. We did the blackboards. We did some of those questions about the question that we got in. Oh, right. I forgot. If you want to write in to 52 Pickup, if you want to submit your questions to the mailbag, do 52mailbag@gmail.com. That's everything on the agenda.
I think there's actually one last thing. Just double check for me really, really quick. It's in like tiny little print. It's the fine print at the bottom.
Okay. I did the sign off. I thanked you. I said I was a professional comic book. That was very important to the canon. We're doing some lore drips here. Oh, what? What? It just says over here, am I ready?
What? 52 Pickup is an Aftermath production created by Gita Jackson and Alex Jaffe and edited by Esper Quim with original music by John Aaron. Hosting for 52 Pickup is provided by Insert Credit. The views and opinions expressed on this show are solely those of the show's personalities and do not reflect those of DC Entertainment or Warner Brothers. Please rate and review our show wherever you can and send your questions and comments to 52mailbag@gmail.com. Never stop reading comics.